Watch, I'll be stupid in love.
On March 22, 2023, along a quiet stretch of Southeast Wooding Road in Washougal, Washington, a passerby noticed something unusual down an embankment. Through the thick brush, what appeared to be life-sized mannequins caught their attention. But this wasn't a random dump site for store displays. What this person had stumbled upon would shake the entire Vancouver community to its core. The discovery came after an intense 10-day search that had gripped the Pacific Northwest. A 27-year-old mother, Michelle Melendez, and her 7-year-old daughter, Layla Stewart, had seemingly vanished without a trace. Their disappearance set off a desperate search effort, with family members, law enforcement, and community volunteers combing through Vancouver and its surrounding areas. What made this case particularly disturbing was the circumstances surrounding their disappearance. The last known sighting of Michelle and Layla was on March 12th, when they were seen with Michelle's ex-boyfriend, a man who was already out on bail for a previous violent incident against her, a man who had been ordered by the courts to stay away from her, a man whose dangerous past would soon come to light in the most devastating way possible. You know, cases like this one hit differently when they involve a mother and her child. And I need you to understand why this story matters. Because somewhere, right now, someone is living through a situation just like Michelle's. Maybe it's someone you know. Maybe it's someone who watches this video. That's why I'm asking you to do something right now. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Not just to support this channel, but because stories like these need to be told. They need to be heard, and most importantly, they need to be understood. I want you to pay close attention to this case because there were warning signs. There were moments when the system could have worked differently. There were opportunities for intervention that might have changed everything. And as we go through this story together, you might recognize patterns that could help save someone else. And here's what I really want you to do. Share this video. Share it, because somewhere in your circle, someone needs to hear this story. Someone needs to understand how quickly things can escalate, how dangerous certain situations can become, and most importantly, what resources are available to help. Drop a comment below if you've ever known someone in a similar situation, or if you've ever wondered how to help someone who might be. Let's create a conversation that matters, a conversation that could potentially save lives. Let me tell you about Michelle Melendez and her daughter, Layla Stewart. Michelle, known to many as Carmen, wasn't just another statistic. She was a 27-year-old mother who lived for her daughter. When she found out she was pregnant with Layla, her entire world shifted. She told her mother, Nicole Harris, something that speaks volumes about their relationship. "I don't know how I got blessed with such an amazing daughter." And Layla? She was this vibrant, energetic 7-year-old who brought joy wherever she went. The kind of child who could light up a room just by walking into it. The bond between mother and daughter was something special. They weren't just parent and child, they were best friends. Those who knew Michelle described her as free-spirited and caring, someone who would go out of her way to help others. Her mother called her a beautiful soul, and that description couldn't have been more accurate. Her brother Ricardo spoke at her funeral about how much love Michelle had for Layla from the very beginning. Even Layla's father, Javante Stewart, acknowledged the incredible mother Michelle had become. But sometimes the brightest lights attract the darkest shadows. And in Michelle's case, that shadow had a name: Kirkland Warren, a man whose violent past would eventually shatter this beautiful mother-daughter bond in ways nobody could have imagined. In Vancouver, Washington, Michelle had built a life centered around giving Layla the best possible childhood. Living in their Minnehaha area apartment, they'd established routines that showcased their close bond. Regular video chats with grandmother Nicole, playdates with friends, and the kind of everyday moments that make up a happy childhood. From all accounts, Michelle was thriving as a single mother. She'd created a support system of family and friends who adored both her and Layla. Her apartment wasn't just a place to live. It was a home filled with love, laughter, and the hopes of a mother determined to give her daughter everything she deserved. But life has a way of throwing unexpected curves. When Kirkland Warren entered their lives, nobody could have predicted the devastating impact he would have. Here was a man who, on the surface, appeared to be just another potential relationship. Yet beneath that surface lurked a history of violence that would have made anyone think twice if they'd known about it. The thing about domestic violence is that it rarely announces itself. It doesn't show up wearing warning labels. Instead, it often arrives disguised as charm, as attention, as what appears to be genuine care and interest. And that's exactly how Warren positioned himself in Michelle and Layla's world. Let's talk about Kirkland Warren, because his past tells us everything we need to know. Back in 2017, in Stuttgart, Arkansas, a 57-year-old man named Curtis Urquhart was found dead in a ditch. This wasn't just any death. Urquhart had been shot in the head, execution style. The prime suspect? Kirkland Warren. But here's where things get interesting. Warren's father was a municipal judge in Arkansas. And somehow, despite being charged with murder, Warren managed to get out on bond. You heard that right. He was walking free while facing murder charges. Think about that for a moment. A man accused of shooting someone in the head was able to leave Arkansas, move to Washington State, and start a new life. A life that would eventually intersect with Michelle and Layla's. And the whole time, this murder charge was just pending. This wasn't just a case of someone with a few minor offenses on their record. This was someone who had demonstrated the capacity for extreme violence. Someone who had already been accused of taking a life. Someone who, by all reasonable measures, should never have been in a position to meet Michelle or Layla in the first place. But the system that should have protected them failed. And that failure would have devastating consequences. When Michelle and Warren first started dating, things appeared normal on the surface. But relationships with abusers often follow a predictable, yet hard-to-spot pattern. For Michelle, the changes happened gradually. She started having less contact with her family. Those regular video chats with her mother became less frequent. Small changes that, in hindsight, were the first signs of control. Warren had a way of inserting himself into every aspect of Michelle's life. By late 2022, he wasn't just her boyfriend. He was involved in her finances too. Through his wife, Monet Tyler Warren, who worked at Trailhead Credit Union, he orchestrated the theft of $25,000 from customer accounts. Around $20,000 of that money was transferred into an account under Michelle's name. Why? Control. Financial manipulation. You might be wondering, his wife? Yes. Throughout his relationship with Michelle, Warren was legally married to someone else. And this wasn't just any marriage. It was a partnership that would later be revealed as instrumental in his schemes. While dating Michelle, he was using his wife's position at the bank to carry out financial fraud, creating a web of manipulation that would make it harder and harder for Michelle to break free. December 13, 2022, marked the moment when Warren's violence became unmistakable. At Michelle's Minnehaha apartment, what started as an argument escalated into something far more dangerous. While Michelle stood at her balcony window, Warren pulled out a gun and fired. Just think about that. He shot at a window where she was standing, where she could clearly be seen. 10 days passed before Michelle found the courage to report this incident. On December 23rd, she called 911, telling authorities not just about the shooting, but also about his assault. Why did she wait? Because leaving isn't as simple as just walking away. Because making that call meant acknowledging that the person you're involved with is capable of killing you. The shooting wasn't just a momentary loss of control. It was a statement of intent. Warren wasn't just trying to scare Michelle. He was showing her what he was capable of. And remember, this was a man who was already out on bond for a murder charge in Arkansas. He had already shown his capacity for lethal violence, and now he was bringing that same violence to Michelle's doorstep. This incident should have been the red flag that kept Warren behind bars. Instead, it became just another entry in a growing list of warning signs that the system would ultimately fail to address. After the shooting incident, the court put a no-contact order in place. But let's look at how that played out in reality. Warren treated these court orders like they were just suggestions. Nothing more than pieces of paper that couldn't actually stop him. March 2023 became a month of chaos. On March 2nd, they finally arrested Warren for the December shooting. But just one day later, one single day, he was out on bail. No GPS monitoring, nothing to track his movements, nothing to ensure he'd stay away from Meche. You want to know how seriously Warren took that no-contact order? By March 6, he was back in jail. Why? Because he called Meche from behind bars. That's right, he violated the order while he was literally in custody. But here's the kicker. On March 8th, they let him out again. This is where the system really broke down. Think about it. Here's a man scoring a 31 on an 18-point danger assessment scale, meaning he was off the charts for risk of violence. He's already violated a protection order from jail. He's got a pending murder charge in another state, and yet somehow he kept getting released back onto the streets. This is where I need to pause our story for a moment, because what happens next is heartbreaking. And before we continue, I want you to do something important. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, now is the time. Hit that subscribe button. Why? Because stories like these need to reach as many people as possible. Look at the comments section below. How many of you are seeing familiar patterns? How many of you know someone who's had a protection order that didn't protect them? Someone who's dealing with an ex who won't stay away? Drop a comment. Share your experiences. Your story might help someone else recognize these dangers in their own life. Let's talk about what a protection order really means. It's a legal document, yes, but it's only as strong as the system enforcing it. When someone violates a protection order, they're telling you exactly who they are. They're showing you that they don't respect boundaries, they don't respect the law, and they don't respect their victim's right to feel safe. Warren showed us who he was repeatedly. He showed the courts, he showed law enforcement, he showed everyone. But somehow, the system kept giving him chances. And those chances would cost Meche and Layla everything. March 11th, 2023 seemed like any other day. Meche, Layla, and Warren were staying at a friend's apartment in the Van Mall neighborhood. Nothing appeared out of the ordinary, just a mother and daughter with someone they knew. But these ordinary moments would be their last. The early hours of March 12th set in motion a chain of events that would lead to tragedy. Around 5 a.m., the group went to another friend's house. This is where things started taking a strange turn. Meche left Layla at this friend's place while she and Warren went out together. Why would Meche go anywhere with Warren at that hour? Why leave Layla behind? These are questions that haunt this case. Questions that make us wonder what kind of pressure or manipulation was at play in those final hours. Around 8 a.m., Warren returned to the friend's house. But something was wrong. Meche was passed out in the passenger seat of his burgundy Dodge Charger. Without explanation, Warren took Layla from the house and drove away. A mother unconscious in the front seat, a 7-year-old child being taken by a man with a history of violence. These were the last moments anyone would see them alive. Those final sightings raised so many questions. A mother who religiously kept in touch with her family suddenly went silent. Meche, who usually had daily video chats with her mother, stopped responding. Her phone went quiet, her social media went dark. It was as if she and Layla had vanished into thin air. But they hadn't vanished. They were being hidden. In Warren's Dodge Charger, police would later find crucial evidence: blood, .22 caliber shell casings, children's clothing that matched what Layla was last seen wearing, and Meche's purse with her identification still inside. Each of these items tells part of a story that Warren never wanted anyone to find. Even more disturbing? After their disappearance, Warren used Meche's phone to transfer $4,200 from her account to his own. Think about that. A man who had already been involved in financial fraud through his wife's position at the credit union was now moving money from a missing woman's account. He was literally profiting from their disappearance, while everyone else was desperately searching for them. The last time anyone heard Meche's voice, saw Layla's smile, or had any contact with either of them was during those early morning hours of March 12th. After that, there was only silence. 6 days. That's how long it took before anyone realized something was terribly wrong. On March 18th, after failing to reach her daughter for their regular video chat, Miché's mother knew in her heart that something wasn't right. She did what any worried mother would do. She reported them missing. That same day, Miché's mother made a devastating discovery. She found her daughter's car abandoned in the 7800 block of Northeast Lewitt Loop. Finding that empty car set off every alarm bell possible. Where was Miché? Where was Layla? Why was the car just sitting there? The Vancouver police responded to a welfare check at Miché's apartment. What they found only deepened the mystery. Miché's dog was inside, alone. Everything about this scene was wrong. A mother who cherished her daughter, who kept regular contact with family, who had a close bond with her mother, suddenly gone. Her car abandoned, her dog left alone, her phone silent. The police began piecing together a timeline, but they already had a prime suspect. Warren, who had violated protection orders, who had shot at Miché's window, who had been the last person seen with both victims, was quickly arrested. But at first, it wasn't for their disappearance. It was for his previous domestic violence charges. On March 21st, Warren's bail was increased to $1 million, and he was ordered to wear an ankle monitor. But by then, it was too late. The evidence was already mounting, painting a picture of what had really happened to Miché and Layla. The most crucial breakthrough came on March 22nd. A passerby walking along Southeast Wooding Road near Sunset View Road in Washougal made that heartbreaking discovery down an embankment. Through thick brush, what they initially thought were mannequins turned out to be the bodies of Miché and Layla. The scene told a story of unimaginable cruelty. Both mother and daughter had been shot in the head, Miché once in her left temple, Layla twice. But the horror didn't end there. Layla was found partially unclothed, leading investigators to suspect something even more sinister. DNA evidence would later confirm their worst fears. Warren had sexually assaulted the 7-year-old girl before taking her life. The location wasn't randomly chosen. The bodies were deliberately placed in an area difficult to access, hidden by thick brush, suggesting an attempt to conceal the crime and delay discovery. This wasn't a crime of passion. It was calculated, deliberate, and horrifically cruel. The search of Warren's burgundy Dodge Charger revealed crucial physical evidence that told the story of what happened after that last sighting on March 12th. Inside the car, investigators found blood evidence, physical proof of violence. They discovered .22 caliber shell casings, matching the type of wounds found on both victims. But there was more. In that same car, they found children's clothing, the exact items Layla had been wearing when she was last seen. Miché's purse was there too, with her ID still inside. Why would a mother willingly leave her identification behind? The answer was simple: she wouldn't. The evidence in the car painted a clear picture. This wasn't a case of a mother and daughter who had simply disappeared. This was a crime scene on wheels. Every item found in that Charger helped build the case against Warren, piece by piece, showing his direct connection to their disappearance and eventual murders. On March 20th, police arrested Warren, but not for murder. Initially, they charged him with tampering with a witness, violating the protection order, and unlawful possession of a firearm. They knew he was responsible for more, but they needed evidence to prove it. After discovering the bodies, the charges escalated dramatically. Warren faced 2 counts of aggravated first-degree murder. The evidence was overwhelming. The DNA found on Layla's body, the physical evidence in his car, the financial transactions he made using Miché's phone after her death. It all pointed to his guilt. On September 7, 2024, Warren entered his pleas. He pleaded guilty to both counts of aggravated first-degree murder. For Layla's sexual assault, he entered an Alford plea to first-degree child molestation, meaning he maintained his innocence while acknowledging prosecutors had enough evidence to convict him. The judge's sentence came down on October 8, 2024. Life in prison without the possibility of parole. During sentencing, the judge specifically condemned the depraved way Warren had disposed of the bodies, treating Miché and Layla with such disregard even in death. Let's talk about that danger assessment score. Warren scored a 31 on a scale that only went up to 18. Take a moment to process that. He wasn't just high risk, he was nearly double the maximum score. This wasn't just a red flag, it was a blaring alarm. The assessment tool is designed to predict the likelihood of lethal violence in domestic abuse cases. When someone scores above 18, it means they pose an extreme danger to their victim. So what does it mean when someone scores a 31? It means the system had clear numerical evidence that Warren was extraordinarily dangerous. This score didn't come from nowhere. It was based on his known behaviors: the previous murder charge in Arkansas, the shooting at Meshe's apartment, his repeated violations of protection orders, his controlling behavior, and his escalating violence. Every single factor pointed to a man who was likely to kill. And yet, despite this astronomical score, the system kept releasing him. The score that should have kept him behind bars became just another ignored warning sign in a series of missed opportunities to prevent tragedy. In just 1 month, March 2023, Warren was arrested and released multiple times. Let's break down this revolving door of justice. Arrested on March 2nd for the December shooting, released on March 3rd. Arrested again on March 6th for violating the protection order from jail, released on March 8th. Each release came without GPS monitoring. Each release ignored his pending murder charge in Arkansas. Each release overlooked his pattern of violating court orders. Why? Because our bail system often prioritizes the rights of the accused over the safety of victims. The Clark County Court had all the information they needed: a man with a murder charge in another state, a recent shooting incident, multiple protection order violations, and that danger assessment score of 31. Any one of these factors should have been enough to keep him in custody. Together, they painted a picture of someone who posed an immediate threat to Meshe's life. Yet each time, the court chose to release him. Each decision to let him walk gave him another opportunity to escalate his violence. Each release brought Meshe and Layla one step closer to their tragic end. The financial abuse in this case shows how abusers use money as a weapon. Through his wife's position at Trailhead Credit Union, Warren orchestrated an elaborate scheme that tied Meshe to him financially. First, he had $20,000 stolen from customer accounts transferred into an account under Meshe's name. Think about the trap this created. By putting stolen money in her account, he gave himself leverage over her. She was now unknowingly implicated in his crimes. This wasn't just about money, it was about power and control. Even after Meshe and Layla were gone, Warren wasn't done. He used Meshe's phone to transfer $4,200 from her account to his. This wasn't just theft, it was his final act of control over her finances, done while her family was desperately searching for her. This kind of financial manipulation is a common tactic in domestic abuse cases. Abusers often create financial dependence or compromise their victims' financial stability to make it harder for them to leave. In Meshe's case, Warren created a web of financial crimes that made her both a victim and an unwitting accomplice. When we look at domestic violence cases that end in murder, we see patterns that mirror what happened to Meshe. Studies show that 72% of all murder-suicides involve an intimate partner, and 94% of the victims in these cases are female. But here's what's most tragic. In most cases, the murder was predictable and preventable. Access to firearms makes these situations drastically more dangerous. When an abuser has access to a gun, the risk of homicide increases by 500%. Remember that December shooting at Meshe's balcony? That wasn't just an incident, it was a preview of what was to come. The most dangerous time for a victim is when they're trying to leave. Studies show that 75% of domestic violence homicides occur when the victim is in the process of leaving or has already left the relationship. This is why the period after filing for protection orders is particularly risky. Looking at cases like Meshe's, we also see how children become victims. Each year, more than 3 million children witness domestic violence in their homes. In cases that end in homicide, children are often targeted along with their mothers. These aren't just statistics, they're patterns that repeat themselves because we fail to act on the warning signs. I'm about to share something important with you, and I need your help to spread this message. If you've watched this far, you understand the weight of Meshe and Layla's story. Now it's time to turn that understanding into action. Hit that share button right now, not just to support this channel, but because sharing this video could save someone's life. Someone in your circle, a friend, a family member, a coworker, might be living through their own version of Meisha's story right now. Drop a comment below with resources for domestic violence victims in your area. Let's create a community where people can find help when they need it most. Your comment could be the lifeline someone desperately needs. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Because every story we share here shines a light on issues that too often stay hidden in the shadows. Every like, every share, every comment helps spread awareness and potentially save lives. The murder of Meisha and Layla shook Vancouver to its core. Hundreds gathered at Esther Short Park for a vigil organized by YWCA Clark County and NWCA. The park, filled with candlelight, became a space for collective grief and a call for change. At Evergreen Memorial Gardens, the community came together again. This wasn't just a funeral, it was a statement. Each person who attended carried the weight of what this loss meant, not just for one family, but for an entire community that had failed to protect a mother and her child. These gatherings weren't just about mourning, they became rallying points for change. Community leaders spoke about the gaps in the system that allowed this tragedy to happen. Domestic violence advocates shared stories of other victims who needed help. Local organizations used these moments to connect with people who might be suffering in silence. The vigils served another purpose too. They showed other victims that they weren't alone, that their community would stand with them, that their lives mattered, that what happened to Meisha and Layla couldn't be allowed to happen again. Nicole Norris, Meisha's mother, put into words what no parent should ever have to express. The day I lost them, I lost a part of myself. A part of me died with my girls. I am no longer a girl mom. I am no longer a grandmother. The raw pain in her words captures the ripple effect of this tragedy. How one act of violence shatters multiple lives forever. Layla's aunt, Lachey Gates, spoke of the dual burden of grief and anger. How do you process losing a niece who is just beginning to discover the world? How do you reconcile the fact that someone chose to not only take her life but violate her innocence? Ricardo Melendez, Meisha's brother, shared memories of his sister's joy when she first learned she was pregnant with Layla. That happiness, that pure love between mother and daughter, made their loss even more devastating. Even Layla's father, Javante Stewart, struggled to find words to describe the impact of losing his daughter in such a horrific way. These weren't just victim impact statements. They were testimonies to lives cut short, to futures stolen, to a family forever changed by one man's violence. If you're watching this and you recognize elements of your own relationship, there are people ready to help you right now. The National Domestic Violence Hotline operates 24/7, and they don't just handle emergencies. They can help you create a safety plan, connect you with local resources, or simply listen when you need to talk. Local organizations like YWCA Clark County offer concrete assistance, emergency shelter, legal advocacy, help with protection orders, and support groups. They understand that leaving isn't simple. It often requires planning, resources, and support. Here's something crucial to understand. Domestic violence shelters aren't just beds in a room. They're full-service support centers. They can help you get legal assistance, find new housing, access financial resources, receive counseling, create a safety plan, protect your children, navigate the court system. Many communities also have victim advocates who work directly with law enforcement. They can help you understand your rights, guide you through the legal process, and ensure your voice is heard in the system. And if you're worried about a friend or family member, these same organizations can teach you how to support them safely and effectively. Sometimes, being that one person who knows how to help can make all the difference. This isn't just about remembering Meisha and Layla. It's about preventing the next tragedy. We need to change how we respond when someone shows us who they are. When someone violates a protection order, when they show up uninvited, when they make threats, believe them. Take it seriously. If you're in a position of authority, whether you're a judge, a police officer, or someone who can influence policy, remember this case. Remember how many times the system could have intervened. Remember what happened when it didn't. For everyone else watching, you have power too. If you see someone struggling with domestic violence, believe them. Listen without judgment. Help them connect with resources. Don't push them to leave before they're ready. Be patient and stay present. Keep offering support, even if they're not ready to accept it. Most importantly, keep talking about these issues. The more we bring domestic violence into the light, the harder it becomes for abusers to operate in the shadows. The National Women's Coalition Against Violence and Exploitation established a memorial fund in honor of Meshe and Layla. This fund serves two crucial purposes: supporting their family and funding domestic violence prevention programs in Clark County. Anyone can contribute to the fund through their website. Every dollar goes toward supporting families affected by domestic violence, funding educational programs about domestic violence, providing emergency assistance to victims trying to escape abuse, creating resources for children impacted by domestic violence. The fund also helps maintain a permanent memorial at Esther Short Park, ensuring that Meshe and Layla's story continues to raise awareness and inspire change in the community. This memorial serves as both a place of remembrance and a reminder of the urgent need to address domestic violence. Local organizations have partnered with the fund to create scholarship programs for children affected by domestic violence, ensuring that Meshe and Layla's legacy helps build a better future for others. Meshe and Layla's story isn't over because their story has the power to save lives. Their tragedy exposes every crack in our system: the bail decisions that prioritized the wrong things, the protection orders that weren't enforced, the warning signs that were ignored, and the danger assessment scores that should have made a difference. We can't change what happened to Meshe and Layla, but we can change what happens next. We can demand better enforcement of protection orders. We can push for stricter monitoring of high-risk offenders. We can support organizations that help victims escape abuse. We can believe victims when they tell us they're in danger. Most importantly, we can keep telling these stories. Because somewhere right now, someone is living through their own version of what Meshe experienced. Someone is wondering if they should reach out for help. Someone is trying to find the courage to leave. If that someone is you, know this: you're not alone. There are people ready to help you right now. Your life matters. Your safety matters. And it's never too late to reach out for help. For Meshe, for Layla, for everyone who needs to hear this story. Let's make sure their lives create lasting change.